November 24, 1971. A calm, rainy evening in Portland, Oregon. A man in a crisp black suit, carrying a sleek briefcase, strides confidently into the airport. He approaches the counter and purchases a one-way ticket to Seattle. The name printed on that ticket, Dan Cooper. Witnesses would later describe him as utterly unremarkable. Calm, polite. Just another face in the crowd. But just minutes after Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 takes off, everything changes. He calmly flags down a flight attendant and hands her a folded note. Thinking it's just a phone number, she slips it into her pocket. He leans in, a faint smile on his lips, and says, "Miss, you'd better look at that note." "I have a bomb." Her blood runs cold. She unfolds the paper. The words are chillingly simple. "I have a bomb. I want $200,000 and 4 parachutes." To prove his point, the man, now forever known as D.B. Cooper, opens his briefcase just enough for her to see a terrifying tangle of red wires and cylinders. This was no joke. It was real. The cockpit is immediately alerted. The pilot radios the ground, setting in motion one of the most audacious heists in American history. The authorities scramble. This is uncharted territory. How do you negotiate with a man holding 36 passengers and a crew hostage at 30,000 feet? The demands are met. The plane lands in Seattle, where the cash $200,000 and $20 bills, meticulously prepared by the FBI, and 4 parachutes are brought aboard. In exchange, Cooper releases all the passengers and some of the crew. With a skeleton crew remaining, the plane takes off again, this time with a new destination, Mexico City. But they would never get there. As the Boeing 727 flies through a dark, turbulent night sky somewhere between Seattle and Reno, Cooper does the unthinkable. At an altitude of 10,000 feet, with the rear air stairs of the plane lowered into the freezing rain-swept wind, Dan Cooper jumps. He leaps into the vast, unforgiving wilderness of the Pacific Northwest, clutching a bag filled with a fortune. Then, nothing. He simply vanishes into the night. An unprecedented manhunt begins. The FBI deploys hundreds of agents. They comb the dense forests, the rugged mountains, the icy rivers. They search for a body, a parachute, a briefcase, anything, but they find absolutely nothing. It's as if the man, the money, and the parachute were swallowed by the storm itself. For years, the case remains stone cold. The legend of D.B. Cooper grows, morphing from a criminal into an anti-establishment folk hero. A man who beat the system and got away clean. Did he survive? The odds were stacked against him. Jumping at night into a violent storm, over rugged, wooded terrain, with a wind chill well below freezing, most experts say survival was impossible. The parachute he chose was an older, less steerable model. He was wearing a business suit, hardly appropriate attire for such a perilous jump. The logical conclusion is that he perished in the fall or succumbed to the elements shortly after landing. But logic doesn't always make for the best story, does it? For nearly a decade, there are no clues, no leads, nothing but speculation. Then, in 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram is on vacation with his family, digging a fire pit on the sandy banks of the Columbia River near a place called Tennabar. His fingers brush against something in the sand. He pulls it out. It's a bundle of rotting, decaying paper. When they clean it off, they realize what they found. This discovery only deepens the mystery. How did the money get there? Tennabar was miles from the projected jump zone. Did the river carry it downstream? Or did Cooper himself bury it there, planning to come back for it later? If he buried it, why did he only leave a small portion? And why did he never return for the rest? The find ignites the case all over again, but ultimately, it leads to more questions than answers. The rest of the $194,200 has never been seen again. Over the decades, the FBI has investigated over 1,000 potential suspects. There have been deathbed confessions, tantalizing clues, and compelling theories, but none have definitively identified the man who called himself Dan Cooper. Was he a disgruntled veteran with skydiving experience, like many believe? One popular suspect was a man named Richard McCoy Jr., a Vietnam vet who pulled off a nearly identical copycat hijacking just a few months later. He was caught, but always denied being Cooper, and his physical description didn't quite match. Another prominent suspect was a man named Sheridan Peterson, a former Boeing employee and experienced smoke jumper who had a flair for the dramatic and the resemblance to the composite sketches. He toyed with the FBI for years, neither confirming nor denying his involvement. Then there are the more outlandish theories. Was he a woman disguised as a man? Was he part of a larger conspiracy? The possibilities seem endless, which is precisely why the story has captivated us for so long. The D.B. Cooper case is a perfect storm of mystery, rebellion, and intrigue. It's a testament to a time before metal detectors, before digital surveillance, when one person with enough nerve could hold an entire airline hostage and then leap into legend. He's the ghost in the machine of modern aviation security, a symbol of a wilder, less predictable era. He wasn't just a hijacker. He became a cultural phenomenon, inspiring songs, books, movies, and a cult-like following of amateur sleuths dedicated to solving the puzzle. In 2016, the FBI officially suspended its active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case after 45 years. It concluded that their resources were better spent on more pressing matters. But they left the door open, stating they would review any specific physical evidence related to the parachutes or the ransom money that might emerge. But for all intents and purposes, the case is closed. The government has moved on. But the public hasn't. The legend of D.B. Cooper is stronger than ever. So, what do you think happened? Did he plummet to his death in the unforgiving wilderness, his skeleton now lying undiscovered under decades of forest growth? Or did he successfully pull off the perfect crime? Is it possible that an old man living quietly in some anonymous suburb occasionally smiles to himself when he sees a news report about the daredevil who jumped from a plane and was never seen again? Perhaps he spent the money, lived a full life, and took his secret to the grave. One thing is certain. On that stormy night in 1971, Dan Cooper didn't just vanish into the darkness. He jumped straight into the pages of American folklore, becoming a permanent and unsolvable mystery. A man who risked everything for a fortune and, in doing so, achieved a strange and lasting form of immortality. He remains the only unsolved skyjacking in U.S. history, a ghost who continues to haunt our collective imagination. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. If you enjoyed this journey into the unknown, please hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next adventure. Let me know your D.B. Cooper theories in the comments below. See you next time.